experts aren't really experts on anything other than what they are specialists in. So, you guys are going to have to forgive me. As you can tell, my throat is still absolutely destroyed from having been intubated, and my mouth is all cut up. I'm still not recovered from all the fun activities. Nothing more fun, though, than waking up and looking and seeing them mopping up your blood off the floor, and the nurse being covered in your blood. That's always a good time. So, we're now back in Duluth. Enjoyed my stay at Mayo Clinic. I will throw this out there for anyone else who's been following this whole thing. If you have a health problem that you can't seem to figure out, you should go somewhere where they have specialists. This is tied into this video. You want to consult with an expert who is an expert on the specific thing that you're looking at. So, I was at Mayo Clinic and I went to go see an expert who specializes in MS. That's all he does. He doesn't do 50 other things. He doesn't propose to be an expert on anything else. In fact, actually, during my appointment with him, once we ruled out and said it's not, it's not MS, he said I can't comment on anything else. That's the only thing I do. All I do is I, evaluate for MS. So you clearly have something, but it's not MS. You'll need to see a different specialist to be evaluated for those other things. Now, that's a very honest comment. That's a very truthful comment, and that is a very good person right there when they admit or confirm or whatever that they are an expert in only one thing. So then I went to go see a neuromuscular doctor, and he only specializes in neuromuscular diseases. He has no idea if I have MS or not. It's not his specialty, so he did not comment. In fact, he told me, I can't tell you what you have, if it's MS or, it's some type of motor neuron disease. I only diagnose, neuromuscular diseases. So, and that's why you have to see more than one specialist. Each one has to run their diagnostics. And this is what I'm here to talk to you guys about with the fitness industry. So, I hate name dropping. I don't like doing it. I think it's actually negative when you call people out. But I'm going to go ahead and do it this time anyways. So Layne Norton has been making reel after reel and post after post on oncology. And he's very abrasive, aggressive, insulting. And this is why I don't feel so bad about calling him out on this, because he's doing it to other people. According to Layne Norton, all of these oncologists at Mayo Clinic, which I've seen many of them, and these oncologists at Sloan Kettering, who I have seen many of them, and these oncologists at the Hillman Cancer Center, who I've seen many of them, are all idiots. Now, that's nice coming from Layne, and people will defend him. This is what I think is screwed up. Grant Fowler pointed out that Layne is incorrect about this, and people messaged Grant to tell him that he's wrong because Layne is an expert. Because he has a PhD in nutrition, that makes him an expert on oncology. Nothing could be further from the truth. If I have a PhD in art history, that does not make me an expert on oncology. Just because I have a PhD does not make me an expert. In fact, actually, my PhD in exercise phys doesn't make me an expert on oncology. Even though it has physiology in the name, oncology is a separate topic. It's a separate field. Layne did a dissertation on leucine, protein. That has nothing to do with oncology. So when these oncologists have an opinion and they told my father that your cancer would progress slower if you cut out your carbohydrates and keep your blood glucose down, those oncologists are specialists. They are experts on oncology, cancer. They are cancer experts. So when they say, hey, reduce your carbohydrate intake and the cancer will slowly, it won't grow as fast, that's coming from a person who is an expert on cancer. So the person who is an expert on protein and leucine is not an expert on cancer. quite frankly, go fuck yourself. You are giving people misinformation. And so the same thing when I was at UPenn, and the oncology team at UPenn told me that if I reduced the carbohydrate intake for my dog, that her bone cancer would grow slower. Okay. The doctors at Sloan Kettering, the doctors at Hillman, the doctors at Mayo Clinic. I even overheard a patient who was sitting there on the phone next to me. They were sitting at a table talking to a loved one, and they were explaining how they are on a no-carb diet because their doctor told them that the colon cancer would grow slower if they cut out all of their carbohydrates, that cancer feeds on sugar, it feeds on glucose, and that is why this type of cancer shows up very, very active on a PET scan, because they use glucose to make this type of cancer, visible on a scan. This is not to say that all cancers rely on glucose, but there are certainly many tumors and many types of cancer that do rely on glucose. And if you have one of those, your cancer expert, your oncologist, will be able to identify to you whether or not you have that type of cancer, and they will advise you on whether or not you should reduce your carbohydrate intake. Now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of other types of cancer. It won't make a difference for certain types of cancer. If you have a primary glioblastoma multiforme, okay, it's not relying on glucose the way that a secondary glioblastoma, GBM4, glioblastoma multiforme with an IDH2 mutation relies on glucose. See, both of them sound similar. It's glioblastoma multiforme, GBM4, but one is a primary and the other one is a secondary, and one of them has an IDH2 mutation. So right there, that changes the metabolism, and I guarantee Lane could not explain this to you because he's not a cancer expert. And I can't explain it to you. I'm literally just quoting what an oncologist told me. A person that has a PhD and MD in oncology. That person might know what they're talking about. I'm not proposing that I know what I'm talking about. I'm parroting to you what they explained to me. Okay? I'm not a cancer expert. I studied cancer. My dissertation was the role of glucocorticoid therapy in oligodendroglioma, okay? But I can't comment to you what platinum-based chemotherapy drug is best. I can't tell you the metabolism of your cancer, okay? All I can tell you about is glucocorticoids, right? And how they're utilized in oligodendroglioma. I can't tell you how they're used in astrocytoma. I wouldn't propose to. I can't tell you what role they might have in osteosarcoma. I can't tell you what role they might have in any other type of cancer. When you become an expert on something, you become an expert on one thing. And that means that you have to forego being an expert on anything else. There's not enough years in your lifetime for you to be an expert on everything. Okay? So Lane is a very good example of someone who is an expert on one thing and clearly does not know what they're talking about on other things. And so people need to stop defending this. If you disagree with me, go ahead and comment below and tell me why you think that being an expert on nutrition makes you an expert on oncology. And I will be glad to explain to you how being an expert in oncology isn't even being an expert in oncology. They all specialize in something. There are people who specialize in lung cancer only. There are people who specialize in astrocytoma only. There are people who specialize in colon cancer, and they don't know anything about lung cancer, pancreatic cancer, you name it. These real experts focus on one thing. So similarly, my doctor that I saw most recently specializes in MS and MS only. He can't tell me if I have ALS. He doesn't know how to treat ALS. He doesn't treat ALS. He only treats MS. He doesn't treat Parkinson's. Okay? He doesn't treat Lewy body dementia. He doesn't treat any of these other conditions. The only thing he does is multiple sclerosis. That's it. That is what a real expert does. An expert focuses on one area of study, and they put their entire life into that. So it's interesting, oligodendrocytes and multiple sclerosis, but maybe that's a video for a different time. Another thing I will point out to you is a lot of times these people that are experts in nutrition, right, really don't know anything about like health or cancer or anything like that outside of the basics of like sports nutrition, for example. Most recently, Alan Aragon made a big long post about collagen supplementation. Okay, that's fine. Alan's talking about sports nutrition and collagen supplementation. What you'll notice in his post, though, is that there's no mention of glycine and methionine. And if you guys are interested, educate yourself. Please do. I hope you do. I hope my videos make you go to Google and look up things. Methionine restriction is very important for your health and especially not developing cancer. So you guys can look this up: methionine, glycine, cancer. Just Google it. And what you'll find is that glycine functions as a methyl donor and it buffers methionine. That's very important. And restricting methionine will increase your likelihood of surviving cancer. It will reduce the rate that the cancer grows, and it will also decrease your likelihood of developing cancer. So restricting methionine is a viable option, or you can just add a whole bunch of glycine, and the glycine will buffer methionine. And we all know that collagen gelatin is very high in glycine. Now, this is not an attack on Alan. I'm pointing out to you that Alan commented on sports nutrition and the post that he made. I'm not criticizing the post. I'm saying the post is void of any comment on cancer. So Alan did not propose that he's an expert on cancer. He just simply commented on collagen and its role for athletes, okay? This is different than Lane. Lane is out there telling people his opinion. It's really just his opinion on cancer. This is just like the time that he debated Paul Saladino, and Paul was explaining to him the difference between diverticulitis and diverticulosis. And it became extremely embarrassingly apparent that Lane had no idea there was a difference between diverticulitis and diverticulosis. You're an expert, and you have an opinion, but you don't even know the difference between these two conditions. It's kind of like how Lane says these bizarre things and actually bashes the work of Justin Sonnenberg, who is an expert on fiber, gut health, gut microbiome. But, according to Lane, apparently Justin Sonnenberg is an idiot because Lane has an opinion. So because Lane has an opinion, that makes everything that Justin Sonnenberg has ever done completely invalid. This is not a good way to be. So I hate doing this. I don't really like doing videos where I tell you something bad about someone. But this one I feel like he kind of brought it on himself because he just constantly bashes other people. And what I'm telling you here is that if someone is an expert, okay, truly an expert, they focus on one thing and they don't pretend to be an expert on other things, okay? This is like the whole thing of, like, if you're famous, you don't have to tell people that you're famous. If you're intelligent, you don't have to tell people that you're intelligent. If you're funny, you don't have to tell people that you're funny. Oh, no, trust me, I'm really funny. No, if I was really funny, you would know that I'm really funny. I'm not particularly funny. I'm sarcastic at times, but I don't think that I'm hilarious. No one's sitting there slapping their leg and gasping for breath because they're laughing so hard at the things I say, or at least I hope you're not. But, the point being, if you're intelligent, you don't have to sit there and tell people, no, really, I'm really intelligent. You know how many times I have to tell people my IQ score or my SAT score? I don't. I've never had to tell a graduate advisor, no, trust me, I'm intelligent. No, they just read your work and they're like, okay, like they knew who they're dealing with. That's how it is. It's like if I told you, oh, no, trust me, I'm really strong. I can squat 225. That's not very strong. So, if I squat 1,000 pounds, I don't need to tell you that I'm strong. If I post a video of me, deadlifting 1,000 pounds, I don't need to be like, no, really, I'm strong. No, you already know whether or not someone's strong or weak. I post a video of me deadlifting 455, no one gives a shit. I post a video of me snatching 235 pounds and no one cares. Yeah, it doesn't matter how much I insist to you, no, I'm really strong. No, I'm not. If I was strong, I wouldn't be just, I wouldn't be doing overhead presses with 225 for sets of 3. I'd be doing overhead presses with 405 for sets of 3 if I was strong. So you see how this works? Like, you don't have to tell people that you're an expert. They'll know that you're an expert unless they aren't educated on this topic, and now they default to you and they think, oh, well, because you have a PhD, you must know what you're talking about. And that's just not how it works. My wife has her PhD in organizational behavior management, okay? She doesn't pretend to be an expert on, say, abnormal psych. She doesn't pretend to be an expert on anything else outside of what she is an expert on. And she's probably like the expert on that topic. And she doesn't pretend to be an expert on any other topic. So, much like my doctor, who is an expert on multiple sclerosis, he doesn't pretend to be an expert on any other topic. He doesn't comment on other topics. So when you're an expert on leucine and protein, you are not an expert on oncology. And so, according to Lane, all these doctors at Mayo Clinic, Sloan Kettering, Hillman Cancer Center, UPenn, Duke, Moffitt, etc., are all incorrect. That's a very bold thing for you to assume that because you have a PhD in sports nutrition, somehow you know more than oncologists know about oncology, is a very bold claim. And so I'm telling you this, and this is illustrating a point here. It isn't just about bashing Lane. I'm pointing out to you that if someone is an expert on one topic, they're not an expert on all topics. I'm not an expert on anything. I'm just a chat of all trades. You like that, chat of all trades. I know a little bit about a lot of different things, but you know what I do? I go find the experts and I go ask them the questions. That's what I do. So like what I told you today about glioblastoma multiforme, primary versus secondary, IDH2 mutation, I didn't come up with that. I'm not an expert on that. I went and asked someone who is an expert on that. Like, have a little bit of humility. Have a little bit of common sense here too. Like, someone who's dedicated their entire life to studying something probably knows something about it. So you may want to talk to that person and get their opinion rather than taking the opinion from some person who happens to be popular on social media. Because we all know people who are popular on social media. Do you think Andrew Tate is intelligent? Would you take his advice on cancer just because he's popular on social media? I'm not bashing him, right? But that Jeff Cavaliere, he has one of the most popular fitness channels. Okay, he's very, very popular. And he's smart about fitness. He's a physical therapist. Would you go to him for advice on your cancer, though? And that's not bashing Jeff. Jeff doesn't put out cancer information. But you would not say, hey, this guy's an expert on physical therapy, therefore I'm going to ask him about my cancer. You don't do that. That doesn't make any sense. Anyways, there you guys have it. Just something for you to chew on, think about a bit. My advice to you is go find people who really are the experts. Find someone who did their dissertation on this specific topic. Find someone who published papers in The Lancet on this specific topic. Don't just listen to somebody because, oh, well, he has a PhD, so he must be right. He has a PhD in what? Basket weaving? I have a PhD in feng shui. I'm a fucking doctor of feng shui. You should listen to me when I tell you how to treat your cancer. No, that's not how it works. In fact, actually, even if they had a PhD, you need to have an MD and be a clinician to tell people how to treat something. So, you guys really need to be very critical and mindful and cautious of who you take advice from.